The joys of the open road, not. The reality of constant city motoring hassles has brought about a new breed of small car. This week, Carfile looks at some of the contenders that claim to offer economy, nippiness, and the ability to park in small spaces. First, Mike Rutherford investigates the bizarre-looking Suzuki Wagon R Plus. With over 1 million produced, it's Japan's best-selling car.
Whether you like it or not, you've got to admit it's very, very different, and it's going to be on sale in a showroom near you for £7,250 very soon. David Farquhar, an old friend of the station, tell us about this car. Last time we spoke at the Frankfurt Motor Show, you were telling us about the new little two-seater convertible, the Roadster from Suzuki. This is a car about half the price, around £7,000, very much for families, the car about town.
This is Wagon R Plus. Wagon R Plus is a derivative of the original Wagon R, which was Car of the Year in Japan 3 years ago.
Suzuki are famous for their four-wheel drive cars. Is this a four-wheel drive or a conventional two-wheel?
This is conventional two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, 1 litre, 16-valve engine, lots and lots of punch, lots and lots of space inside. It's very much in tune with environmental requirements of today. It's low on cost to buy. It's got a very healthy miles per gallon. It's got lots of room inside. It's got the room and space inside of most conventional saloons.
The problem with these things in the past is that they've been pretty underpowered. They've had these horrible little engines which I think were really designed and built to get round Japanese legislation but weren't particularly user-friendly for Brits. But this car doesn't have one of those horrid little 600cc engines, does it? It has a real 1 litre, I think about 64 horsepower, something like that?
64 horsepower, top speed of nearly 90 miles an hour, and quite, we think, spirited performance.
50 miles per gallon.
50 miles to the gallon.
Or thereabouts.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's saved by the bell or disturbed by the bell, but we'll worry about that later. You can edit that bit out, Pete. Well, the first thing you notice when you climb into this car is that it's got an enormous amount of headroom. I'm probably about average height, I guess, about 5'10", but if you were well over 6 foot, you wouldn't have any problem at all in this vehicle. Very surprising, the height inside. The layout is pretty conventional, looks like pretty much every other Japanese car that's ever been on the market. But the main thing is that, although this car, as we've said, looks a bit like a dinky car from the outside, when you're inside, it really is true to say that there's plenty of room in here, and it feels like a mid-size car rather than a city car. You could believe you're on the inside of a Nissan Almera or any other Japanese car of that ilk, a Toyota Corolla, for example. So nice big car feel on the inside. Driving-wise, well, you do have to work this gearbox quite hard to get any performance out of this 1 litre 16-valve engine. About 64-ish brake horsepower, and so it doesn't pretend to be a performance car by any means. It is very much a city car that can be used for the occasional motorway journey. This vehicle, the Suzuki Wagon R Plus, I think they need to do something with that name, it's a bit long-winded for me. The Suzuki Wagon R Plus is half the price or thereabouts of the new Rover Mini. And that I find incredible. Well, like I said, not the world's greatest car to drive, but you wouldn't expect that anyway. 1000cc city car for couples or maybe for small families, but really very much the car about town rather than the motorway car. But it does the job, and it does the maximum speed limit and a little bit more. So in that sense, not too much to complain about. But I think, for a lot of people, how this car drives and how it handles and how it goes through corners is very much a secondary issue. It's the user-friendliness of the car, the size of the car, the price of the car that will appeal to them most. And there are some very nice little touches. How about that little tray under there for all your goodies? If you have to leave something in your car, and I don't recommend that you do very often, but if you do want to go out and you don't want your mobile phone with you and you do want to hide it somewhere in the car, what better place than that little sort of letter rack under the chair. Now, I'm one of those people, I've got to tell you, that makes an awful lot of mess in their cars. I'm forever eating and drinking in the car, and I'm always looking for a bin or somewhere I can put all my junk. And just look at this. And there you have it. That could be a rubbish bin. You can see in my case, this is really what I consumed over the course of the weekend. We've got lolly sticks in here, cans of drink, cartons of drink, crisps. That's the sort of junk that I end up with at the end of a weekend in my car. It's really embarrassing, this. But the great thing is that you can just lift that out. I mean, you could use this for your shopping, for your junk. It seems to me that probably the best thing for it, look how easy it is just to plonk back in as well. Easy to clean. The greatest use for it, I think, is if you're one of those people who likes going out and buying a pint of milk and you're worried about it spilling in the car and leaving an awful smell, or even if you go to the off license and buy the occasional bottle of wine or whatever. That's the great place to store it. Plonk it in there and then close it. Well, there it goes again. I tell you one thing that would drive me nuts about this car is this silly little warning device that makes this horrible noise every time you leave your key in the ignition and have the door open. I think we can work out, honestly, that we need to take our keys with us before that warning device tells us, but everyone to their own. Well, that was the Suzuki Wagon R Plus. I'm still not too sure about that name. It's a bit long-winded, isn't it? But I am pretty sure about the car. Yes, it looks bizarre from some angles. I think it's not offensive, but we've seen some amazing reactions from people on the road today. And if you are one of those people that wants to turn heads, well, forget about your Ferrari 355 or your Porsche 911. This will turn more heads than a Porsche, I can tell you. I'm not sure if you're going to get the right sort of comments and the right sort of admiration, but if you want to be noticed, this is the car for you, believe me.
Want to save the environment? Get on your bike. And here in Amsterdam it makes perfect sense, and it's very pleasant too. But we all know that Holland is flat. Most of us have our ups and downs to cope with every day, and in any case we're just not ready to junk the family jalopy. But with governments ever more ready to tax for poor emissions, with shouts of knock your socks off, socks as in sulphur emissions, you understand, car manufacturers are racing to create a new kind of car, tuned to help us breathe more easily. And this is the very latest, the quirkily attractive Daihatsu Sirion. Now, the people at Daihatsu have been very busy because this is the 5th new model to be released in just 14 months. And I have to say it's a darn sight more attractive than the ludicrously named Popemobile lookalike, the Daihatsu Move. There are 2 models, the Sirion Plus and the Sirion. This is the Plus model, top of the range. Both models have a 1-litre engine, and Daihatsu say that it's not only amongst the most fuel efficient, it's also amongst the cleanest. But surely all this swampy-esque environmentalism isn't going to have people clamouring to the showrooms with their deposits. No, say Daihatsu, it's not just clean and green, it's also a mean machine. Let's find out. So, off we go. 0 to 60 in, how long have you got? Just over 15 seconds. That's certainly a bit mean. But it has a top speed of about 90 miles an hour, and what's impressive to me is that a 1-litre engine can sometimes scream at those top speeds, but the ride quality is extremely good, and at the top end, the top speeds, it's remarkably quiet for a small car. Very good indeed. This version has the 5-speed manual gearbox with a link rod system, which means that changing between gears is extremely crisp. Also, automatic transmission is available on both of these models. Well, let's have a look at what's happening underneath the bonnet. The new 3-cylinder engine is the heart of the Sirion. It uses twin camshafts and 4 valves per cylinder and ranks as one of the world's most efficient petrol engines. The camshafts are driven by scissors gears, and the engine revs very smoothly, produces good torque. A catalyser also lowers CO, HC and NOx emissions. Even with a 54 brake horsepower engine, the result is one of the lowest fuel consumption figures of any passenger car, at 51 miles per gallon for the manual version and 44 miles per gallon for the automatic. It's the best in its class. Meanwhile, let's take another look at the shape, which I like a lot. The shoulders are flared out, which makes it look wider than it actually is. And the Plus version has a rear spoiler, which you can bet has no practical use whatsoever in a car of this size, but looks rather fetching. And chrome is back in a rather sleek way on the bumpers and along the side. Nice big bug eyes at the front as well. Boot space, a respectable 235 litres. Value for money. The basic Sirion comes in at just under £8,000. The Sirion Plus, fully loaded, £9,500, which is actually cheaper than, say, the Vauxhall Corsa or the Nissan Micra. And there are some elegant specs. For instance, driver and passenger airbags as standard, side airbags down here for the Sirion Plus, side impact bars too, power assisted steering, and also electrically controlled front and back windows here on the Sirion Plus, an engine immobiliser, and here's a nice little American touch down here, cup holders for all those fizzy drinks. But here is the car's best trick. How about this? Fold flat door mirrors. Very neat. It also has a pretty decent stereo system with 4 speakers in the Plus and 2 speakers in the basic model.
Tamelijk gepeperde uitspraken over de rol van de Joden en brachten dat op een ongelukkige wijze, denk ik, in verband met het lijden van de Joden.
Couldn't agree more. Whether it was the styling or the colour, this little Sirion did turn a few Dutch heads out on the road. Except for the guy who really fancied himself in his 1982 Daihatsu Quarry. Now they don't make them like that anymore.
This is Hambach in Lorraine, France. In the last 2 years, the largest international industrial centre of its kind in Europe has been built here. It's called Smartville. From this week, this place will be the production location for the Smart Car, the revolutionary micro-compact car. Smart is a joint venture between the Swiss SMH company and the Daimler-Benz Group. The Smart Car's production process is also opening a new chapter in the history of the automotive industry. The production of the Smart dispenses completely with the conventional suppliers of component parts. Instead, the major systems partners have already been integrated in the development of the product and the preparations for production. They manufacture entire functional modules on the spot and deliver them direct to the production line.
Of course, these are also suppliers in the classical sense. Only the way that we work with them, the scope of the work we entrust them with, that makes these suppliers into systems partners. Brought in at an earlier stage, more task-oriented, the classical tasks of the automotive manufacturer. And here at the location, they even take over some of the risks. More of a joint entrepreneur, and thus part of a virtual enterprise.
The advantages of the Smart Car's production process: cost efficiency, on-demand production, and genuine just-in-time delivery. However, the most impressive result of this new system is the final assembly time of the Smart. It's only 4.5 hours. This is the shop floor where the Smart Car will be put together. It's in the shape of a plus sign. This is where the vehicles are assembled and completed. The system's partners dock their modular works onto the 4 arms. Magna International, for example, produces the Tridion safety bodywork cell for the Smart on an automated production line. Krupp-Hirsch fits the drive modules, the centerpiece of which are the 3-cylinder Suprex turbo petrol engines manufactured at Daimler-Benz in Berlin. And the cockpit module is the contribution of Mannesmann subsidiary VDO. And in a newly developed process, Dynamit Nobel produces synthetic parts of the Smart, and these are coloured right through the material, so they don't have to be repainted and are very easy to replace in the case of a minor accident. Smartville is designed for the production of up to 200,000 smart cars every year, a pretty ambitious objective.
We have a very attractive product, it is inexpensive, it is reliable. We have a partner, Mercedes-Benz, who gives this car absolute safety. We have another partner, a Swiss firm that is well known for dependable, highly qualified work. And with all these aspects, plus the price of the car, if we know how to communicate all this, then we can sell a lot of them.
We've yet to drive the smart car, but it looks like loads of fun. On paper, it's got an awful lot of power for its size and weight, and economy figures look almost too good to be true. Look out for future reports on the smart car.
Now, when I was a very young man, I had access to the Works minivan after hours, and I very soon discovered that a single mattress fitted snugly in the back. I'm sure I wasn't the first, and I won't be the last, to use a van as a recreational vehicle. Latest recruit to those ranks is Citroen, with this, the Belingo multispace. We first saw this device as a concept car at the Motor Show 2 years ago. It's unashamedly based on Citroen's Belingo van. It's already on sale in Europe, where it's been a huge hit, with over 50,000 examples sold. Now, Citroen are hedging their bets about the car over here, and they say there's only going to be 1,000 available until the end of the year. I hereby make a prediction: they are wrong. They're going to sell as many of these as they can make. Why? Well, in the first place, it's a fun vehicle with 3 bright exterior colours and a colour-coded interior. In the second place, there's just acres of room in this thing. In the first place, it's got a simply enormous sunroof, a massive 20 square feet. Citroen say it turns the car almost into a convertible, and they're right. Talk about let the sunshine in. And because it's based on a van, there's huge amount of headroom, seats for 5 people, and even room in the back to put 2 mountain bikes in upright. And again, thanks to the van heritage with the seats folded down, there's 100 cubic feet of space here and a payload capacity of 600 kilograms. But the overall dimensions are very similar to a Super Mini. And it's cheap at just under 12,000 quid. Now, it's all very well starting off with a van as a base, but if it feels like a van to drive, then you're going to get fed up with it in a remarkably short time. So, have they made the Belingo feel like anything more than a light commercial vehicle with some windows and some seats in the back? Initial impressions are very good. It's smooth, flexible and quiet. The 1.8 litre engine is specially tuned to deliver lots of low-down torque through the 5-speed gearbox. Certainly doesn't feel like a van. Despite the indifferent road surfaces round the Cotswolds here, well, the ride comfort is surprisingly good. You seem to be sitting higher than you would in an average saloon car, and you get a tremendous view through these acres of glass. And despite the size of the sunroof, well, there's very little wind buffeting, even at speed. The road holding is safe and predictable, and the power steering very light. Certainly doesn't feel as though you're delivering the groceries. And it's no slouch. Citroen claim 0 to 60 in around 12 seconds and a maximum speed of 100 miles an hour. I should think the draft from the sunroof gets a bit more at that speed though. But in the Cotswold lanes on a summer's evening, it's an excellent form of transport. Simple, well laid out instruments, all the controls fall to hand, and quite a sophisticated radio cassette. A surprising omission in view of all this huge glass area is no air conditioning, and that could be a pain on a very hot day. But you've got this huge sunroof, and if you want to wait, they say there might be a more luxurious model later on next year with air conditioning in the spec.
Every year, car manufacturers like to show off their latest concept cars at motor shows all around the world. It's a chance for their designers to have some fun, come up with wacky, wonderful, weird ideas of how they think cars should look. Now, alas, very few concept cars actually make it into production. The Audi TT is the best example of one that has. Alas, this gorgeous Chrysler Kronos we saw at Detroit will never make it into production. Car manufacturers really ought to have more trust in their designers. Now, this is a picture of a Suzuki concept car. As you can see, it's butch, it's muscular, it's a fun four-wheel drive for the younger generation. In reality, that concept car has turned into this, the new Suzuki Jimney. And perhaps you can see my point. Why, oh why, didn't they have more trust in their designers?
The Jimney is Suzuki's new small vehicle designed to enhance high-energy lifestyles, whatever that means. I'm sure it will appeal to the younger generation who want a cheap 4x4 Jeep-style vehicle. They can buzz around the fashionable areas of their city in, and the Jimney would certainly seem to fit the bill. It's compact, it's trendy, and above all, it's cheap.
Yes, a new Suzuki Jimney like this can be yours for less than £10,000, and that represents tremendous value for money. Plus you get a whole host of standard equipment: electric mirrors, electric windows, power steering, dual airbag and a radio cassette player. Plus, for an extra £1,000, you can beef it up with some specially styled accessories: a plastic bull bar, front fog lights, alloy wheels and side steps. It's what Suzuki call their city look, perfect for parking outside your favourite bistro. Now, I've really enjoyed driving this Jimney. It's quite a fun car to drive. Its buzzy little engine revs quite freely. It's only a 1.3 litre, so you hardly get kick in the back acceleration, but it just trundles along pleasantly. The steering, though, is a bit of a problem. Very light and very vague, and that can make the car very twitchy on our famous British uneven roads.
In normal driving, you'd have the car in two-wheel drive, but you can change easily into four-wheel drive at speed in a straight line, and it's as simple as moving this lever back and we've got four-wheel drive should you need it. Suzuki's marketing line for the new Jimney is smart in city, tough in nature. One of those bizarre slogans that means, well, goodness knows what. It's a competent car, the Jimney, with a great price, but smart and tough, I'm not so sure about.